everyone. I hope you're having an amazing day today. I'm Marcus Igor-Apari, local filmmaker, and today we're going to be talking about Medicaid stories. Mary, would you like to introduce yourself?
I am Mary Young. It's wonderful to be here today to talk about Medicaid and how important it is to our communities.
Especially. Thank you for coming. So, I want to start off with your story. Do you mind sharing that?
No, what I'm going to tell you about is about my sister-in-law, who I'm guardian of with my husband. And I want to start out with, if it wasn't for Medicaid, my sister-in-law wouldn't be alive right now. Okay. Both she and her brother were adopted. They were adopted separately, and pretty quickly her parents realized that she had some cognitive challenges, and her medical records had been lost when she was born, so they weren't sure what that was all about. But at that time, it was before Medicaid, it was before special education services were in school, and so her family sent her to school, to kindergarten, and she was sent home that very first day because they said they couldn't provide an education for her. And this was before the Medicaid waivers, and they told them that the only option was for her to go live in an institutional setting, that was the only place she was going to get an education. And they weren't happy about that, but they figured out a way to stay connected with her, and she lived in that setting until she was 18 years old. And that was even still before Medicaid. Medicaid came into effect in 1965, the same time that they signed the law for Medicare. And it was really designed for people with disabilities. And she had medical needs, but she was able to live in the community at a place that she really liked, that she had picked out herself, and that was a nursing home. But the laws changed when she was in her late 20s, early 30s, and she had to move from there. And really, we depended on the Medicaid waivers to help her find a place to live. But at that time, they were talking about Medicaid cuts, and it was harder to find places to live for somebody with a challenge, a cognitive challenge, and some behavioral issues that were a result of some medical problems her birth mother had. So she ended up having 20 different placements in a year. Sometimes she was just kicked out of a placement and on the street. Eventually, because my brother and I became her guardians around that time because of all these challenges, she had never had a guardian before, and because she needed a liver transplant, we worked with her and the team at University of Colorado transplant team, and she was accepted to have a transplant. And it was very successful, and that was in 2000. She has lived 25 years after that transplant successfully, and a great deal has to do with the Medicaid that support she's had. And she's had additional medical issues, and Medicaid has really helped her find the medical treatment she needed to continue to live as healthy a life as she had. She can. And right now, she at the time after the liver transplant, after trying lots of different places to live, we found a place which is not really an institutional setting. It's like living in a group home, and she's lived there since then at Pueblo Regional Center, and they were able to support her with both her medical needs and her behavioral challenges. So that's why I am such a supporter of Medicaid.
Wow, that's really powerful because it just shows that Medicaid is not just something that supports people with disabilities, it saves lives. And it just shows that. I think it's an amazing story about how Medicaid saved your sister-in-law.
Yeah, well, my sister-in-law has given me permission to tell her story because she really wants other people to understand her life and how difficult it was when she was young and she couldn't live with her family and felt really disconnected because we didn't have the supports that she needed to really live at home. And now, in today's circumstances with Medicaid, she would be able to live at home when she was young and then make a choice how she wanted to live her life as an adult, which she now is doing with the support of Medicaid and getting a place that, living in a place that she considers is home.
Yeah, that's really powerful because we all deserve to live and to thrive in our communities, and Medicaid is a really big supporter of that. I've heard a lot of stories and experienced my own stuff with Medicaid, but yeah, it's just something that we all need to think about, and I'm so grateful for Medicaid because like stories like yours, like your sister's-in-law's story, shows that Medicaid saves lives. But something I really want to talk about, and the reason why we're here, the reason I want to talk to you is, what happens if to your sister-in-law if Medicaid gets cut?
Well, Marcus, thank you for that question. That's a difficult answer to predict, but I can tell you based on my experience when there has been attempts to cut Medicaid in the past. What I would imagine would happen is she would become homeless once again because she lives in a facility that really is supported by the funds that the clients who live there have from their Medicaid waivers. And if that money wasn't available anymore, the state wouldn't be able to support that place to live. And we've struggled with finding places to live where someone with cognitive challenges and some behavioral issues can live before this, and there will be less places for them to live without supports. And we would love to have her live with us, but because of her physical challenges, she is in a wheelchair now, and we don't live in a wheelchair accessible home at all. And because I'm not able to, I don't have the physical capability, nor does her brother, to really assist her in and out of the wheelchair. It takes two people to do that. She wouldn't be able to live with us. And it's difficult to even imagine what living situations are going to be there, and also the access to adequate medical care. If they're not paying physicians for Medicaid services, it's going to be very difficult to find medical care.
Yeah, this fight to cut Medicaid and for funds, and I know in Washington we were definitely talking about the people behind the numbers, and for me that's really important too, because I know we discussed that as well, the people behind the numbers, just like you and me, just like your sister-in-law. So the question I want to ask is, if you were speaking to a registrative number right now, what would you say to them?
What I would say is they need to think about this country and all the people that they represent, and they really need to make sure that people have access to the health care that they need to be able to have safe housing, And really cutting Medicaid is really going to cut that off for so many vulnerable people. And I think it's important to make sure that we're not incurring so much debt in this country, but I don't think this is the population we want to target in order to achieve that. As you're speaking about speaking to legislators, I'm a former legislator, and one of the biggest areas that I saw the state was able to provide Medicaid services to outside of people with disabilities was children who were in child welfare, who are often children who also have disabilities. And this would impact them so much in able to, they need mental health supports, they need medical supports, and we're already struggling with trying to find enough therapists. And if we didn't have the money to support these programs that are supporting the mental health of children in the child welfare system, that would be a terrible loss. And this would definitely be impacted by any Medicaid cuts.
Yeah, it definitely would. I have a question though. Is that, anyone else? You mentioned before you were an educational teacher and you worked with kids with special needs. And you worked with kids with disabilities. And I wanted to ask, how would they be affected?
Well, they receive Medicaid waivers that allow them to get their physical health. They see their doctors that way. And they also get waivers that allow them to stay at home. That either someone comes in that's paid by Medicaid waivers, say you have a child who has some real mental health challenges and the parents need help with that, or they have a child with real physical challenges, they're in a wheelchair, they're not very mobile, they need help getting out of their bed in the morning and back in bed and taking showers. Medicaid pays for that. And so if there were Medicaid cuts, once again, are they going to be able to live in their home? Where are they going to be able to live in a healthy way? And sometimes that's going to impact their ability to go to school and get the kind of special education services that they need. The other area is mental health, because mental health is also paid, lots of services are paid for by Medicaid. And lots of children and youth get counseling and sometimes residential support to treat those things and their medications. And once again, if Medicaid's cut, are they going to be able to get those services anymore? And it really is going to shift a healthy approach to those needs. Many of those children and youth are going to end up in our juvenile justice system because they don't have the supports that they need to live a healthy, productive life.
Something I want to ask, which really drives home the reason Medicaid exists, is how does Medicaid, thanks to Medicaid, help your sister be independent, help your sister become an adult?
Well, that has been the focus of the plans that we have developed with the guidance of Medicaid, is making sure she has those skills of everyday living, encouraging her to work. At one point where she lived before COVID, they were able to have a store where they resold things, and my sister-in-law was selling things and at the cash register, and she loved it. And she has had different employment over the years. And really, is the one who decides where she lives and what kind of activities she does. And it really was the supports through the place that she's living, really unfolding those plans that has allowed her to develop those skills. And also, the biggest thing for her is her behavioral challenges that resulted from her early medical condition from her birth mother, that she really needed lots and lots of support and sort of treatment or plans to overcome those issues. She has had behavior plans. When she first moved there, she was wanted to run away. She didn't really want to face what was happening, and so she had some things to support her to get rid of that. And so she's had behavior plans all the time that she's lived there, because sometimes she has a very difficult time accepting no when you say no to something. She also has had counseling, and she gets some support through a psychiatrist over the years with medication. And those are different programs she's accessed. She is currently in a day program, and we're exploring day programs that will give her increased access to the community.
Sounds like Medicaid has really helped her get out of homelessness and start living life, and obviously retiring and just living, because really at the end of the day, I think Medicaid, that's just Medicaid. I think, to me, that's Medicaid. Your story is really powerful, and I bet there's a lot of other stories that are out there that are just as powerful, that shares a lot of success stories. I know for me, I want to be here right now speaking to you if it weren't for Medicaid. I had problems with speaking, with my speech. I was slow, I stuttered. I wouldn't be talking to you right now like this. But thanks to Medicaid, they provided me with a speech therapist, and look at me now. And
yes.
I bet there's a lot of stories just like that. And I'm so glad, because if it weren't for Medicaid, she would have been on the streets. And because you got all the good points, you brought up a lot of good points. Your home wasn't accessible, and as much as you want to take her in, which is a really good thing we should look out for, because Medicaid is building the bridge to having people with disabilities be included into the community. That's what I think.
Yeah.
That's what I believe it is.
Well, I think that you talk about your independence and how much Medicaid supported you, and I think the other thing is my sister-in-law wants to live independently.
Yeah.
She really doesn't want to live with us, because that's not her life, that's our life.
Yeah.
And she has really appreciated being able to live her own life with her own choices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point, because I started running the bus recently, and I really like going around places on my own. So that's really the goal. I think Medicaid's goal is to be included into the community and living independently. I know there's some areas that, yeah, it's okay to ask for help in. That's what Medicaid is there for. So it's there to help people who want to be independent and who have disabilities be part of the community independently. So a question I want to ask is, I know there's a lot of concern with Medicaid being threatened to be cut, and I know time is running out. So I want to ask, and if I imagine there's a lot of people concerned about it. And I don't blame them, because Medicaid has helped like me, your sister-in-law, and so many other people. What would you say to them?
Well, I would tell them to really reach out to the legislators who are really making the final votes and decisions about this. Right now, the process is still happening, and depending on when people hear this, we're not sure where they're at, but they should reach out to their congressperson's office by phone or by email, and their senators. We have 2 senators in the state of Colorado, Senator Bennett and Senator Hickenlooper, and your congressperson depends on where you live.
Yeah, I agree, because our voices are definitely loud. And I know, especially people in power, it seems impossible, and it seems impossible, but I believe with our collective voices, and this is just my piece of advice that I would say to them, to you guys who are worried about that, just I'm worried about that too, is that just speak your voice, share your story, like we're doing right now. Share your story. That's what I would say, because your story carries a much powerful message than just saying it.
Yes, they want to hear the stories of how people really will be impacted.
Yeah, I agree. Well, if you don't have any, do you have any final thoughts or notes you want to say?
No, thank you for approaching me about this, and
You're welcome.
doing this is very important work you're
My
doing.
pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have an amazing day. I hope that this message reaches a lot of people. I hope you enjoyed watching. Please consider that there's people behind the numbers, and that we should always be compassionate, be empathetic, but most of all, be kind. Thank you. Share your story. You have a voice. To find your registrator, go to Find My Registrator at ledgor, or scan the QR code. This video was only made possible thanks to the Arc of Northeast Colorado, which serves Weld, Logan, Morgan, Washington, Sedgwick, Phillips, and Yuma counties, and the Arc of Larimer County.